Hey yogis, welcome back. It's Julia. You're tuning in to my Couch to Confident course. And in this course, we are getting into our hips. This video in particular will help you with things like the splits, but it will also help you with overall hip opening and finding a little more mobility in our lower body. So when you go through this video, it may be helpful to have a pillow or a bolster as well as a yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, then I recommend finding something that's a little bit sturdy, like a thicker pillow or maybe even a thick book. All right, let's get started. So let's begin in a butterfly or bound angle position. So bring your sit bones and your heels close together. Draw the soles of your feet together. Let your knees butterfly out. So as we go through today's course, we are going to address all the different compartments of our hips. A lot of times when people think hip opening, we emphasize a lot of this external rotation and this wide abduction, but really there are so many different compartments of the hip where we tend to get bound up and a little bit sticky. So in this video, we're going to address all of that so that you can feel really open and very mobile throughout your entire lower region and not just in the inner thighs. But we're going to start here today. Draw the soles of your feet together, lift your chest up, and then fold forward any amount. You want to find just a nice stretch for the inner thighs, but not so far that you're holding your breath. That's a really good metric I use for pretty much anything. If something is so intense that I cannot breathe through it, something has to change. So maybe that means backing out a little bit or addressing the pose with a prop. All of that's great. Good. Come on up to sit. Use your hands to close the knees together and then slide the heels forward. You're going to sit up tall in staff pose or dandasana. Energize the quads. So as you squeeze the quads, that naturally starts to bring some length into the hamstring because they work together. Sit up really tall, lift up through your crown, and then fold from the hip hinge. So if you have a hard time finding where to fold, it can be helpful to tuck your thumbs right into your hip crease and fold from there. Good. Send your arms forward. If you don't touch your toes, it's not a big deal. Just let your hands rest where they will. As you inhale, think about rooting your sit bones down and drawing your heart forward. As you exhale, deepen. And when you find that spot where your body doesn't want to go any farther, honor that edge. It's so important to listen to our body and say, all right, that's enough when you found that sweet spot. Good. Use your inhale to sit back up. Draw up from the low belly, sit up really tall, and we'll find a little bit of gentle flow with that. Draw the heels in. Inhale, sit up tall. You may even plant your fingers behind you to help you lift. Exhale, fold forward, spread the arms forward. Good. Inhale, draw in like you're scooping the mat back up into the belly. Exhale, extend the legs. Inhale, sit up really tall. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, rise back up. Feel that wave up through the spine. Draw the heels in. Sit up tall. Exhale, fold forward into that butterfly. Good. Last time. Inhale, draw it in. Sit up. Exhale, extend the legs. Breathe in. Get really tall up through the crown. Then breathe out and fold. And then this fold will hold a little bit longer. So oftentimes we think of a forward fold just for our hamstrings, but it also can release the low back. So if you need a little extra low back release right now, soften your knees a little bit and let your body round. And it's okay if your head hangs. It won't fall off. Sometimes it feels like it will. Good. Just a couple more breaths. Inhale, rise back up. Great. Now stamp your feet, hips width distance. Bring your fingertips behind you towards your hips and lift up into a reverse table. So it's one of my favorite poses just to release the front line of the body after deep folds. Squeeze the shoulder blades together and root into the feet. So you're asking the back line of the body to turn on and lift you. Take another breath in. And breath out. Come all the way back down. Good. So turn over to the long edge of your mat. and extend your legs out wide. So we're going to come into a wide angle fold here. So it's not important that we go crazy wide in our legs. Just come to that comfortable stretch point. And then again, you want to tone up the thighs and turn your toes towards the ceiling. Whenever we are working with finding some stretch, it can be helpful to turn on the opposite muscle that you're trying to stretch. So for example, if we're looking to stretch our hamstrings, you might engage the quads a little bit, and that's just going to give them a little more release. So as you anchor your leg bones down, lift up tall. You'll even feel a little pelvic floor lift, belly lift. That helps you find a long spine so that when you fold, you're folding from the hips as opposed to just rounding in the back. Walk your hands forward, but keep your toes turned up towards the ceiling. So here you're going to feel your inner thighs will stretch as well as your hamstrings. Good. You might notice that after a couple moments in the pose, you get that sort of release feeling, and your body will allow you to go a little bit deeper. There is such a thing as stretching too far. So it's possible to go beyond a threshold that's appropriate for your body. And that's why with yoga, it's really important to stay in tune with your breath. If you can't breathe through it, it's a little too far. And if you just have that intuitive knowing that, you know what, this is a lot farther than I normally go, then back out a little bit. Just take a few more breaths. You're doing great. Use your inhale to walk yourself back up. And then use your hands to soften your knees and slide the legs together. You're going to cross your ankles and push back into a downward facing dog. Take a few breaths in downward facing dog, and it may even feel good to pedal the legs just a little bit. If you tend to get really tight in your calves and in your lower legs, that may be preventing you from finding some opening higher up your kinetic chain. So we're all connected from our feet to our head. So if you do find that this pedal motion in your downward facing dog is bringing a lot of sensation into the lower leg, then linger on one side, let your heel press down, and just notice how that release down the back line of your lower leg influences a deeper release higher up in the leg and in the hip. Good. Nice. On your next breath in, look to your hands and then step your right foot forward. If you need a couple steps to get there, feel free to use your hand and take your foot forward right in between your thumbs. And then release your back knee down. And this is where it might be nice to have a bolster or even double up your mat so that you have a little more comfort for your kneecap. You can untuck your toes as long as your knee thinks that's all right and that doesn't cause extreme tenderness in the knee. Heel toe your front foot a little bit wider than your right hand and allow your pelvis to melt forward. Maintain just enough support in your low belly that it doesn't feel like you're sagging, but instead like you're melting into the pose. Good. Just a couple more breaths here. Good. And now grab your prop. It might be a pillow or a yoga block. Place both of your hands on your prop. Lift yourself up and then shift your hips back over your knee. Slide your front heel forward into a half splits. So we're a little bit wide here on purpose, just inviting you to find stretch in a different area of the leg. Pull your toes back towards your nose and lead the chest forward. So look for two actions here. Look for the action of your hip moving back and your chest moving forward. Great. And now, because your toes are turned up towards the ceiling, you can swivel on your heel and turn out from the hip. So it's not just the foot moving, you're actually moving the entire leg out. From there, thread the hip back just a bit more. This is a really, really big stretch for the side panel of the thigh and the hip, so if it's too intense, just don't turn out as much. Great. Dial the toes back up to the ceiling. Place your hands back on the mat. Come forward to that lunge. Set your block forward or your pillow forward, whatever you're using, and tuck your back toes. Lift your back knee up so that you can firmly plant the back toes. We'll come into a long stance pyramid. So this is a pyramid variation. Both the legs will go long, come back onto the front heel. You can reintroduce the prop underneath your hands to give your body a little height and support. Because you are up, so squeeze the inner thighs past one another to level out across your sacrum, and then move the chest forward. You might even have the ability to actually take your hands and your block to the outside edge of your foot and begin to slide thigh past thigh. This is going to greatly increase the stretch, but for most of us, we're going to find more comfort and plenty of stretch just staying right here in the middle. Good, just a couple more breaths. Now soften into the front knee. On your next inhale, hinge forward to a lunge. Plant your hands back down on the ground. Set your block off to the side. Step back to downward facing dog. So that was a lot of opening in your right hip. You may need to put a little movement there. Great. And take a breath in and a breath out. And look to your hands. Step the left foot forward. Again, it's okay if you need to pick it up and put it there. That's just fine. Release your back knee down. And you may even widen the left foot so your hands can come down to the block or come down to the mat. Apply any cushion that you need for your back knee for comfort and allow the pelvis to melt forward. If it feels like you're sagging in your pelvis, draw up just a little bit so that you have some support. It can be a pretty uncomfortable feeling. You'll know if it's too far, and remember to honor the body back out when you need to adjust. Just a few more breaths here. Great. Find your prop, place your hands on it, and shift back to a half splits. So your hips are going to go over your back knee. Slide your front heel forward and straighten the leg. So the knee doesn't have to totally lock out. In fact, locking out our knee is not usually a good thing, but a long experience from the foot all the way to the hip is going to give you that nice release you're looking for. So again, search for two actions. Search for your hip hugging back and your chest moving forward. You can also increase the IT band and outer hip stretch by dialing the toes out at an angle and then increasing that hug of your left hip back. If at any point it becomes too edgy, too much tension, just reduce the range of motion. Great. Turn your toes back up to the ceiling. Set your prop to the side for a moment so you can rock forward. Tuck your back toes. And we're coming into that long stance pyramid, this time on the left side. So shift back. Dial up your toes towards the ceiling so that you are balanced on the ball mound of your back foot and the heel of your front leg. Zip your inner thighs towards one another. Level out your hips. And again, you may have a lot of range. So if you tend to have a lot of range in your hips, maybe your hands start to walk over to the outside. But for most of us, this is plenty right here. Look for this sensation of your sacrum flattening or leveling like it's parallel with the ceiling and the floor. And then hug the inner thighs like you could move the legs isometrically past one another. A little zipper up. Good. Couple more breaths. Excellent. Soften your front knee. Set your prop to the side, plant your hands, and step back to downward facing dog. Good. So moving on to get a little bit more opening, we'll move into pigeon pose. So slide your right shin across the mat, tuck your back toes, lengthen your leg behind you, then untuck your toes and lay the body firm down into the ground. So if you notice that your hips don't want to touch the ground evenly or you're rocking off to one side, you can slide your bolster or a pillow right underneath your tush. From there, lift your chest, so that's the pigeon part, that's where it gets its name. Lift your chest up so everything gets long, and then fold forward. So you might fold forward onto your elbows or all the way down onto your chest. You can also make a little pillow with your hands and lay your head down. When you're in pigeon, it's kind of a myth that you need the shin to be perfectly parallel with the top of your mat. In fact, for most of us and our bone structure, that might not even be possible. But what you do want to find is that your knee is spacious. So if you notice that you feel a lot of tension accumulating in the knee, you may actually find more accessibility by tucking the heel slightly closer to the groin, as long as you're not rocking all your weight over to one side. Take a couple more breaths here. Good, so walk up into your hands, roll onto your right side, and then bring your right foot into the inseam of the left leg. Sit up really tall, and then turn your torso in the same direction as the hip points. Good, reach your arms up on your inhale, and then revolve forehead to knee as you exhale, arc up and over, and maybe you touch your toes. If you do, great. For a lot of us, we don't touch our toes, so if that's happening to you, you just take your top hand to cradle your brain. Slide the bottom arm down the inseam of the leg. Feel that anchor and lengthen on the inhale, and then turn your heart up to the ceiling on the exhale. Just a couple breaths here. You're doing great. Should feel really good on the side of the body all the way into the hip. Great. And on your inhale, rise back up. This top hand now will become a second spine behind you. So root into the earth and then sweep up into stargazer pose. Shift weight onto that bottom shin and press down through the long leg. Squeeze the heart through and reach through your top hand. Take a full breath in. And exhale, come on back down. So let's switch into the other side. Come back to downward facing dog. Then slide your left shin forward into half pigeon. Tuck your back toes so you can lengthen your back leg behind you. And you want to find that groundedness through your sit bones, your pelvis, both hips. So if you're not feeling that, then grab a prop. Grab a bolster or a pillow so you can lift up that left butt cheek just a little bit. Once you do feel level and grounded, untuck the back toes. And again, for a lot of us, making this front shin perfectly parallel is not something that's available in the body. So instead, look for comfort in the knee and a lot of groundedness across both sides of the body. Once you feel as though you're not going to shift anywhere, lift the chest up and then fold forward. So pigeon is one of those poses that is sort of a love it or hate it experience. But we're not here to make our bodies suffer. So if you are feeling something that's so ultra intense, or it even just feels a little bit off, know that you can always take a figure 4 on your back, or you can just come out of the pose a little bit. When it comes to stretching, a little bit goes a long way, and we want to be in this for the long haul. So watching these videos a few times over and over and over and finding just little incremental improvements each time is a lot better than going super extreme and then getting injured later, right? So continue to breathe. Great. Walk up into your hands. Shift weight onto your hip so you can swing that back leg out in front of you. Bring the sole of your left foot to the inseam of your right thigh. Sit up tall through the center so your ribs and your hips are pointing in the same direction. Reach up through your arms and then side bend. Revolve forehead to knee, arc up and over. So again, you might touch your toes, you might not. If you don't, just place your hand at the base of your skull so you can let your head rest in your hand just a little bit. And breathe. So important to remember this is not a yoga performance. It's a yoga practice. So it's okay to feel a little messy. It's okay to feel a little lopsided, especially when it comes to stretching. One side is never going to feel identical to the other side. Just breathe with it. A couple more times in and out. If you have some more space, let your heart turn up towards the ceiling. Great. On your inhale, rise up. This top hand now comes to anchor behind you. Sweep your right arm across the horizon of your body and then lift up into Stargazer pose. Stargazer pose, you're balanced on your long leg, your shin, and your back hand. Move your hips forward and lift your heart towards the ceiling as if you could pull your ribs away from your low waist. One more inhale. And exhale, sweep it all the way back down. Great. So from here, we have opened up not just the inner thighs and the hamstrings, but also the outer hips, gotten into the glutes, and we've gotten into the hip flexors. So we've really balanced out the opening of our hips. So if you do go into a pose like the splits or Hanumanasana, then you know that you've addressed in a balanced way all of the different compartments of the hip. So let's go into that pose. Great, so as we move into the splits, have your props available. So you'll want to grab your sturdy block or whatever you're using as a substitute for a block, and your bolster or your pillow. Come into that half splits that we found, or that Ardha Hanumanasana, and start with whatever leg you feel most confident with. So I always like to bring my right leg forward just so I give that little confidence boost of, yeah, I can do this. So from your half splits, tuck your back toes, lift your back knee. So this is very similar to that long stance pyramid that we found earlier in practice. Lift your back knee so you can kind of shimmy your back heel back and your front heel forward. When you get as far down as you can comfortably sustain with your hands, untuck your back toe. From here, flex your toes back towards your nose and pull your outer right hip back and maintain that tension. Engage your quad. So I spoke a little bit earlier about how when you are opening up one set of muscles, it helps to engage the opposing muscles. So in this case, engage your quad to release your hamstring a little bit. So pull your hip back, engage your quad, and then as you release the tension of the thigh and see if you can scoot your front heel a little farther. You might have noticed you gained half an inch or an inch. And if you have found a place where your body says, stop, that's as far as I go, grab your sturdy prop and slide it underneath your front thigh so you can start to lift up. So if this is where you want to stop, stop. If you have a little bit more space to go, then do that exercise again. Engage the quad, tuck the back toes, slide heel and heel as far away from one another as they'll go, and then release the tension. Observe new changes. Be really incremental as you're starting to add range to these bigger poses. And if this is the place to stop, grab your pillow, slide it underneath your thigh, maybe all the way underneath your pelvis, and rest here. Observe, decide if this is it, this is as far as you want to go today, or if you want to take it just a bit further. If you are going to take it a bit further, then do that exercise for the last time. Engage the quad, tuck the back toes, slide yourself as far down as you're going to go, and then observe. If you can comfortably lift your hands, do so. But if that causes you to topple or it gives extreme sensation behind the knee, bring your finger pads back to the earth. Good, just a couple more breaths. Great, so coming out of the splits, it's never graceful. Plant into your hands, lift your pelvis off the earth, and begin to slide the legs back together. And just rest for a moment in a little kneeling stance. Take a few breaths and know that wherever you got to is exactly where you're supposed to be today. Doing bigger poses like the splits is all about listening to your body. So let's do the other side. Come to your half splits. For me, when my left leg is forward, it's never quite as deep as when my right leg is forward, but I still feel the same intense sensation. So it's more about searching out and observing the sensation than it is about matching side to side, because we're asymmetrical. That's just how it goes. Tuck your back toes, slide your front heel forward, and start to work the legs away from one another. Engage the quad. Find that tension of as if you're trying to pull your inner thighs towards one another. Notice how deep you're going to go. Honor that spot. And if it's here, maybe you slide your prop underneath your thigh and you rest there. Good. If you think you have a little bit more to go, then you do the exercise again. Tuck your back toe, engage your quad, make the action of hugging your inner thighs together and notice if there's any more room. If you get a little more depth, fabulous. Release the tension and slide your pillow or bolster underneath your thigh. If this is where you want to stop, awesome. Honor your body and stop here. If you have a little bit more to go, then do the exercise one more time. Typically when we're stretching in this fashion, 3 rounds of this is as far as we're going to go for gains each day. So it's really not bigger is better. And I know in my body, I'm not going to bring my pelvis all the way to the ground on my left side. That's just where I am today. So honor that spot. Take a couple breaths. Good. Plant your hand, soften your front knee, begin to slide your legs back together. You might bring your mat with you like I did, and then just come to a kneeling position. Let the body rest. Good. You might even feel a little quivering, a little shake and quake in your legs. It's a good sign. Good, and then come all the way down to your back. When you get down to the floor, extend your legs out in front of you and just let the tension in your legs go. Relax your arms out to your side. And then turn your palms face up, maybe your eyes come to close. If you feel residual tension in the legs, feel free to sort of wish-wash your toes side to side until that tension subsides. And then once it does, relax. When we're thinking about range of motion or flexibility, thinking about hip opening, it's important to remember that it's not all about just stretching your hamstrings or being in pigeon for a really long time. You want to find opening in all of the different quadrants of your hip. So the front, the back, the sides, inner thighs, glutes. And then once you're ready to release, allow your body to fully release. Just be soft here. Let your breath begin to slow down. Your body should have that quality like it's melting or getting heavier into the yoga mat. And if you have the time, I encourage you to stay here in shavasana for 5 or 10 minutes. If you need to get on with your day, start with just gentle movement in your toes and your fingers. Maybe roll your wrists and your ankles. Stretch out. And then come to fetal pose on your side. Knees into your chest and use your arm as a pillow. When you're ready, press yourself up to a seat. You can take your hands to your heart. Thank you so much for joining me, Yogi. I hope you are enjoying this Couch to Confident course. If you tune in tomorrow, we are taking a trip through yin and restorative yoga. And if you haven't heard, yin is in, so you'll better be there. Until then, take care. I'll see you tomorrow, and namaste.
We at Wellness Plus specialize in all things health and wellness, ranging from yoga and fitness to massage and ASMR. Whether you are looking to target specific areas of tension or want to enhance your general self-care routine, we provide the tools you need to feel better, look better, and live better. We have courses for every level, whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro. Our courses provide a wide range in difficulty to accommodate your evolving flow. Wellness Plus is available on Amazon, which you can stream from your home on your phone, tablet, or TV. Join Wellness Plus today and get your first 7 days free.